channel, man. I want to talk about the Duke Blue Devils and the nice. Well, it's a very very good freshman class led by Zion Williams, and I want to talk about a lot of people. Procrastinators in the beginning of the season was saying that Duke can probably go undefeated in the regular season, win a championship, and possibly maybe the best freshman team ever assembled, even better than the 5-5 back in the day. I remember the 5-5 with Juwan Howard, Jalen Rose, Jimmy King, uh, Chris Webber. Those guys were tremendous. They did not win the title. They lost to Duke and they lost to North Carolina, junior and freshman teams. And I believe that Duke team had one junior in the starting lineup, and I think that was Grant Hill. And the reason why I'm saying this is because the NCAA is not like the NBA. They call it March Madness for a reason because it's madness. I've seen countless and countless of years of college basketball in the tournament and seen a lot of really good teams go down and go down to teams that really doesn't get a lot of shine during the regular college season, but in the tournament, for some reason, they upset Ohio State, upset a Michigan, upset a North Carolina, upset a Indiana Hoosiers when they were good with Bobby Knight. So I can't say I will take the field over Duke. If I had a bet, I would bet the field is going to win the title because it's very very hard to win it, especially with freshmen. It's this narrative out there that a lot of these one and done teams, full of freshmen, have won the championship. And I go the perfect example is Kentucky with Coach John Calipari. He was really the first one that started getting a lot of these one and dones. Now he had some tremendous players one and done. He had DeMarcus Cousins, he had John Wall, and those guys were on the same team with Bledsoe. They did not win the NCAA championship, and they were very very talented. You know what I'm saying? Just as talented as this Duke team, probably more talented. And I believe he only won one national title in what 7 years since he's been there, 8 years since he's been there. He's been there like at least 7 years. He's been there, maybe longer, and that was with the team with Anthony Davis, Michael Kidd Gilchrist, Devin Booker was on that team, the Harrison twins, and Devin Booker was on that team, and people don't even realize because I believe he was coming off the bench, so Devin Booker wasn't even. That's how talented that team was. Devin Booker was coming off the bench for that team, and he was able to win it with that team. But John Calipari has had a lot of great freshman classes over the last 6 7 years, and he only got one NCAA title to show for it. So it's not true that these tremendous freshman teams win a title. And I will say this: because these guys are going up against juniors and seniors, when you come in, a lot of these guys are not as strong. Yeah, Zion Williams, he's in a outline. He's big and strong. For a freshman coming in, but when they face these juniors and seniors, these guys are strong. Not only strong physically, but they're strong mentally because a lot of them have already been through the tournament. March Madness tournament and had the experience. As talented as this Duke team is, they don't have the experience of going through that tournament. And and another thing people don't realize, college basketball, physically, the physical play is actually more physical than the NBA. I'm talking about as far as what the refs let you get away with, the fouls, and you don't get the foul calls. And in the tournament, they rev that up. They even let players get even more physical. Now the NCAA said they were going to clean it up because of a lot of the lower scores in college, but I don't think they really cleaned it up because even last year in the tournament, I seen a lot of physical play. You know what I'm saying? I don't mind a physical play, but I'm just saying I seen a lot of physical play. And when these freshmen and sophomores go up against these juniors and seniors and you're allowed to play physical, yes, you may be more talented, but it brings the game more closer because they're allowing the physicality. And a lot of these, you know, highly touted freshman classes end up losing because The difference between 18 and 22, when you're young and you're growing and you're still growing as a person, your physicality and you coming into your strength, that's big. That's a big difference. 18 to 22 is a big difference as far as maturing your body. So yeah, and look, I thought the 5-5 was more talented than this Duke team, and they couldn't win it. You know what I'm saying? Now that era to me was the basketball in that era was more tougher because you didn't have a lot of freshman team that were starting. You know that freshman team, not from the beginning, but by game 4 or 5, they were all starting together, and you just didn't have that back then. You had a mixture. Now, if you was a freshman back then, you had to be really good to crack the starting lineup in the first year. So back then, yeah, Chris Webber would have started, but I don't know if yeah, Jalen Rose probably would have been on the fringe of starting, and Juwan Howard if they would have went to different teams. You know what I'm saying? They probably would have had a chance to start, but the college game was so the talent was so deep back then because guys actually stayed in school. Now guys don't stay in school, and when you get these, especially these mid-major colleges, and you get these other lower level colleges, a lot of those players, they when they're there for a reason. They're there because they're a little bit less talented than the players that go to Kansas or Duke or Michigan or Michigan State. You know what I'm saying? They're a little bit more talented than those guys at the big schools. So they usually stay in school they usually stay in school all 4 years. So they get, and then a lot of them, if they're fortunate in their careers, they go to the tournament at least 2 or 3 years out of those years. So they get all that experience. You know what I'm saying? And this Duke team, like I said, they don't have that experience. See, when Michigan went up against Duke back in the day, Bobby Hurley, Grant Hill, Kristen Laettner, all those guys had went through all those years and all that tournament experience and was tried and true. And by the time they faced that Michigan team that had Juwan Howard them led by Chris Webber, they won that. They respected Michigan, but they won that. They didn't think that they couldn't beat that Michigan team. They probably was licking their chops because they probably was saying in their minds like, these guys don't know what they getting themselves into. You know what I'm saying? We've been through the wars with the UNLVs and the Kentuckys and the North Carolinas and all these guys. We've been through the wars. They haven't been through any wars. You know what I'm saying? And I naively thought back then that Michigan had a chance to win. I remember in the first half, I believe Duke was up about 5 points, and then in the second half they just blew Michigan out. They just blew them out. And that North Carolina team that Michigan lost to, that team actually Michigan had more. Now I don't think Michigan had more talent than that Duke team. You know what I'm saying? I think it was comparable, but that North Carolina team that Michigan lost to that next year, Michigan had more talent in that team. But like I said, that North Carolina team was tried. You know what I'm saying? Even though Michigan did go through the tournament the year before it, and they played Duke and they had that experience, but that North Carolina team had juniors and seniors on it, and they had been through a lot of wars. You know what I'm saying? So, and they lost to that team. We all know famously Chris Webber called the timeout. You know what I'm saying? And they lost it. They lost that game. I'm not saying him calling the timeout had something that made them lose the game. I still thought they probably would have lost the game, but it calling that timeout lost the chance of them winning the game. But like I said, yeah, I'm gonna take the field over Duke. Even though Duke is tremendous, they lost to Gonzaga, and I was looking at that game. And what was glaring to me in that game is Duke did not play a lot of defense, and that's one thing about freshmen. And that's one look, they could be tremendous on offense, but it's that getting through their mind that they have to play defense, and that's what John Calipari used to always talk about with his freshman classes when they came in. He used to always say, "I need to get these guys to buy in on the defensive end," because he understood that these guys going to play offense is what they do. They just come out of high school. A lot of these guys average 30, 40 points a game, so they have no problem with the offensive end. It's the defensive end that you have to get these young kids to buy into. So yeah, I mean Duke has a great chance of winning it, but I'm gonna take the field. Let me know what y'all think about it, man. I'm out.